This is the biggest bluff I've ever made, but I decided to size up and put $350 in the pot knowing that I'm behind. What is up, PokerBEASTs? Kato here, and today we are playing cards. We're going to do a $200 buy-in, and hopefully we win some. Let's get to it. Welcome back to the vlog. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe. We're having a ton of fun. This is a new channel, and I want you to be a part of it. The first hand I look at is Ace-King offsuit. I've actually played a hand and lost it. I'm not sure what it was, so I have $135 remaining, and it limps around to us. There's 3 limpers, and I decide to bump it up to 25. The big blind thinks about it for a moment, and he raises me a little bit more. He puts in $63 into the pot, and of course I have 36 left. I'm not folding, so I go all in, and he makes the call, $245 in the pot, and we are going to a run out. The flop comes King of Diamonds, 5 of Clubs, 9 of Spades, then we have a Queen of Clubs and a Queen of Spades on the river. I think I'm good with my top 2 pair with a great kicker, but no, he flips over pocket aces, and just like that, we're down a buy-in. Luckily today I brought another buy-in, and we quickly scoop another pot, and once again I miss this hand, but we're sitting at $295, and I get a nice seat change to seat 3, which is wonderful because I know this is an angle you and I love. So I fold around a few more hands, and the next hand that I look down at is pocket eights. We're in the low jack, and we have $295 in our stack. There's a straddle in the pot, and it folds around to me, so I decide to bet $20, opening up the action. The small blind makes the call, and the button makes the call. We're going to the flop 3 ways with $70 in the pot, and the board is 5 jack 6 two-tone. It's not the worst flop for me since there's only the jack above my pocket eights, and so when it checks to me, I continue to take the initiative, betting $25 into the pot. Unfortunately, both players have something apparently because they both decide to come along, so we're headed 3 ways to the turn with $145 in the pot. The 10 of clubs comes on the turn, and it checks to me, and I decide to slow down and check back. That's when the button decides to rip it all in for $70. There's $215 in the pot now, and if I make the call, the action ends, we go to the showdown, and so I decide to make a loose call. I call the $70. I'm probably a little tilted from losing my first buy-in, and this is definitely not a good call, especially seeing that I don't have much money behind. I justify it by telling myself if I get a club or an 8, I'll win. I don't get either, and he flips over jack 8 offsuit for the win. And I lose a pot that I definitely could have avoided. We're down to $180 of our second buy-in when the dealer pitches me some cards on the button. I look down at King Jack offsuit. The middle position, low jack, and high jack players all limp, and I decide to bump it up to $20. That's when the big blind 3 bets me to $60. I know this player pretty well. I played with him a lot, and he doesn't get out of line nearly enough for me to be making this call, especially out of the blinds, but I think I'm obviously being influenced by tilt right now. I'm probably trying to get money back that I lost, and I'm trying to speed up the process, which is never a good idea. I make the call, a very loose call, and we're going heads up to the flop. I do get a piece of it when the dealer puts out Ace-7 King two-tone, but the big blind rips in $100 right off the bat, and I think I just have to fold this one away. I'm donking off chips left and right. I'm down to $126, and I get dealt King-Queen offsuit in the small blind. There's a straddle on the pot, and the cutoff makes the call, and I decide to bump it up to $25. I have 100 behind when the under-the-gun player calls. We're going heads up to a flop, $61 in the pot. The dealer puts out 9 jack king two-tone, and I decide to continue my line of betting, $20 this time, and the under-the-gun player bumps it up to $70. I, of course, have top pair, a great kicker, and a straight draw. I'm not going anywhere, so I go all in for my remaining $80. He makes the call for 30 more, and we have $261 in the pot, going to a run out. I bink a 10 on the turn, giving me a straight. The river doesn't change anything, and finally, I'm scooping a pot that I didn't play half bad. We're finally moving in the correct direction, $251 in my stack, when the next hand in the cutoff, I look down at pocket queens. The under-the-gun low jack and high jack all limp in. I decide to bump it up to $20 from the cutoff, and the under-the-gun player calls. We're headed to the flop heads up with $53 in the pot, and the dealer puts out 9-8 jack, all diamonds. I have a gut shot straight flush draw, and an overpair. This is of course a beautiful flop, and I want to continue building the pot. When the player checks me, I bet $30, and he folds. We're continuing to head in the correct direction. I'm back up to $301 for my original $400 buy-in, and the next hand I get is Ace of Hearts, 2 of diamonds in the cutoff. We're playing 6-handed, it's a straddled pot, and the player under the gun blind raised at $18. I'm going to go ahead and bump it up with my ace. I'm not really sure how to adjust to 6-handed. I never play it, but I know that you have to open up quite a bit, and of course an ace is a beautiful card to have, especially when there's $28 worth of dead money in the pot. The under the gun player makes the call, and the button makes the call. We're headed 3 ways to the flop with $124 in the pot. I'm a little nervous that I made the wrong play, inflating this pot with a marginal hand. The dealer puts out Jack King 3 rainbow. I decide to slow down, and I check. It checks around, and we're going to the turn, which is the ace of spades. With the action player checking, and the player behind me being pretty tight, I decide I'm going to go ahead and bet $40 on my top pair. It folds around, and I'm scooping the pot. I'm basically back to my original starting stack. I have $385, and the next hand I look at is ace-5 of hearts. The under the gun and middle position players limp, and the wild hijack player raises to $17. On the button with a suited wheel ace, I'm going to make the call. I don't see any reason to 3-bet here, and the small blind, the big blind, the under the gun, and middle position player all decide to come along. We're at a family pot -1, $103 in the pot, and the dealer puts out queen 2 ace 2-tone. It checks around to me, and there's so much money already in this pot, and I have top pair. There's draws out there. I need to protect my hand, so I bet $50. Luckily, no one wants to come along, and so I'm scooping this one easy peasy. My stack is starting to grow. I have $443, and the next hand I look at is queen jack of diamonds on the button. The wild player in the hijack raises $20, and I'm going to come along. The small blind decides to come along as well. We have $66 in the pot, going 3 ways to the flop. The flop comes out king, queen, ace, 2-tone. Not the flop I wanted to see, but I do have a pair and a straight draw I could improve. The hijack continues the story, betting $20, and I'm going to make the call as well as the small blind. We're headed 3 ways to the turn with $126 in the pot. The turn is the 4 of clubs, bringing the possible flush. When both players check to me, I see this as an opportunity to take the pot because there's no way I'm winning it by getting to showdown. I bet $75, the small blind makes the call, and the action player makes the fold. We're headed to the river with $276 in the pot, and the dealer puts out the 5 of spades. This is my last chance, my only chance, to steal the pot. I don't think my queen's going to be good, but there are a lot of hands that my opponent could have that he could fold away. He could have an ace X that doesn't have 2 pair. He could have a big combo draw with maybe a pair and a straight and a flush draw. He could even have a 2 pair that he might be willing to fold away. So I had to go ahead and rip it in $202. This is a dangerous move. This player likes to slow play a little bit more than most, and so he definitely could have the nuts here. Who knows? My logic isn't making much sense, but I know one thing. I want the pot. He thinks about it for a little while, and he decides to make the fold. It feels good. We're scooping a big one. Now we're sitting with $599 in our stack. The very next hand, before I can even stack my chips, I get into another big hand with that same player. The under the gun player has gone all in for his $50, and I have ace queen of clubs. I decided to try to isolate by raising to $100, but the button's not having any of it. He makes the call, and we're going to a flop, basically heads up, although there is someone all in. There's already $260 in this pot, and when the flop comes out 8-8 ace 2-tone, I'm deciding I'm not going to slow play this at all. I'm going to continue betting, and that's what I do, $100 on top, and to my surprise, my opponent rips it all in for his $331 stack. He doesn't hesitate for a second. I don't think there are any 8s that he would see the flop with, and so I'm putting him on an ace. Now my question is, does he have the king, or am I good? I decide I'm not going to fold this one away. My kicker's great. I make the call. We're going to the turn in the river. The turn is the 4 of clubs, and the river, we both table our hands, and we both have the same thing. We're chopping the pot with ace queen. Although mine was suited, shouldn't that count for something? It was a lot of stress for a little pot, but it's much better than him having big slick. We're moving on to the next hand, and we're sitting with $610 in our stack. Almost a full orbit goes around when I get ace queen again, this time offsuit, and the middle position player raises to 10. The cutoff calls. I decide I'm going to 3-bet here. Not too much, $35. I just don't want the players behind me to get priced in, and I want to maybe isolate to heads up with position. The original raiser folds, and the cutoff makes the call. We're going to the flop, which when he checks, I make a small bet, and I take it down. With $659 in my stack, I get dealt ace-9 of clubs in the cutoff. There's a straddle on the pot, and the hijack makes the call. I'm going to bump it up to $25. I have position and a decent hand. Let's try to thin the field. The button makes the call, the hijack makes the call, and we're going to the flop 3 ways heads up with $79 in the pot. The dealer puts out 3 queen ace rainbow, and with top pair, I'm going to go ahead and throw in a small bet. I don't think it has to be too large. The ace is a scary card, and so I make it 15. The button decides to re-raise me to $45, and I have to make a decision. Am I going to call? The answer is absolutely yes. I have a pretty good kicker, a backdoor nut flush draw, and of course, top pair. I make the call, and we go to the turn and river. It checks down. We flip our hands up, and he has ace deuce. I'm scooping the pot with a 9 kicker. Things are just continuing to go well. I built my stack up to $723. This table has turned for the worse, and so I decided to make a table change and move to a one with a little deeper stacks. The first hand I get of note is pocket queens and the low jack. I open it up for $15. There are 3 callers, so we're headed to the flop with $60 in the pot. The dealer puts out ace-9-7, all clubs. I have the second nut flush draw, but unfortunately, there's an ace on the board. When it checks to me though, I'm going to continue betting. It's a scary board if you don't have anything, an easy one to fold away, which most of the players do, except for the under the gun player who makes the call. We're headed to the turn with $110 in the pot, heads up. The turn is the 8 of hearts, and interestingly enough, the under the gun player decides to lead into me for $50. Now, this may not be good analysis, but I think what happens is that if you have an ace on the flop, you're definitely going to be calling. but you're hoping to fade a club. And then when you do fade a club on the turn, then you are a little more encouraged to bet, because now you're playing to protect your ace. You don't want me to check behind and get a free card if I'm drawing. And so I think that he's betting out with an ace. He's also probably lacking a good club for a kicker. He may not have one at all, because he probably would have check raised me on the flop if he did. I decided to make the call, although there may be a better option, because I'm probably behind and I'm hoping to either hit a club or a queen, and I still might not be good at that point. The river is the king of diamonds, doesn't improve us at all, and the opponent decides that he's going to bet out for $75. Unfortunately, my hand kept getting worse and worse, and I never improved past a pair of queens. $285 in the pot. If I call, there's no way I'm winning, and I don't really want to fold, and so I think, is there a way that I can put in a bluff here? The only issue is that I'm going to be having to risk a lot of chips, and I'm not very comfortable with that. I never really make big over bluffs, although I did watch Doug Polk do his heads-up tournament, and he was doing a bunch of big over bets on bluffs, and it kind of encouraged me to maybe find a spot to do one. And so I realized my opponent probably doesn't have a straight or a flush, and my analysis on the turn put him only on an ace. I have the queen of clubs, which is blocking a lot of good club combinations that he could have, like queen jack of clubs, queen 10 of clubs, ace queen of clubs isn't possible, king queen of clubs isn't possible, and so I decide that I am going to make the bluff. Now the question is how much money, and I think with $285 already in the pot, it needs to be a pot-sized bluff. It needs to be a big one. I don't want to give him any chance to call me with a set, any chance to call me with two pairs. But it's really hard, scary, and difficult to make that big bluff. This is the biggest bluff I've ever made, but I decided to size up and put $350 in the pot, knowing that I'm behind. Let's listen in on the hand.
No good, huh? Here?
Whew, and I've just pulled off the biggest bluff of my life. I'm sitting with $850 of chips, and I am feeling spectacular. And maybe I'm a little too excited, because the next hand I look at is 6-4 of hearts under the gun. There's a straddle on the button, and I limp, which is probably never recommended. The middle position player limps as well, and the hijack bumps it up to $30. The action's back to me, and I make the call. And the middle position player and the button also make the call. We're going 4 ways to a flop with $124 in the pot. The dealer puts out ace king king with 2 hearts, and sure, I have a flush draw, but it's a terrible one, and it's a paired board. I'm not even sure if I want the flush draw. Regardless, it checks around, and we're going to the turn, which is the 8 of diamonds. I'm under the gun first to act, and I decide if no one wants to bet in this pot, I will. So I bet $50, and the player to my left in middle position makes the call. Everyone else folds. The player does something weird, but it looks like he's going to min raise, but he announces a $50 bet, and this casino probably has one of the laxest rules regarding betting, and so although this may not be allowed in your casino, it's allowed in this casino. I'm not sure if it was a mistake or if he decided that he wanted to try to trap me with a king on a later street because he thought maybe I would bet into him and he thought that would be too strong. I know what some of you might say, and it definitely was not any sort of advantage move. I've played with this player for so many hours. He's completely respectable. I've never seen him take any sort of questionable line against anyone, regardless. The river is the 3 of hearts. We have hit our flush, and I think that my opponent, based off of the little move he made before, he probably has a king, and he probably was trying to get an extra street of value on me. He didn't want to do the min raise because he thought it would be a little too obvious. I go big, $202, targeting any ace or king, and he thinks about it for a little while before putting in the call. I table my flush, and he says, nice hand, and mucks. We're scooping another pot, and now we're sitting with $1,134. What a comeback from what a great turnaround from the beginning of the session. We go card dead, we fold around a bunch more junk, and then I decide, you know what? I'm hungry, let's get the heck out of here. We rack up our chips and take them to the cage to trade it in for cold hard cash. Stick around to the end to see how much I won. I am so thankful for the growth of this channel. I cannot believe it. Since the first week of posting, my subscriber count has just gone sky high, and it's because of you. So thank you so much. Thank you for the continued support. Let's continue to grow this channel. Let's continue to grow this community. All right, the session is over. We were in for $400 and we cashed out for $1,125. It was a great session. I think I played pretty well. I pulled off that big bluff, which was a lot of fun.